for the most part, Republicans or self-identifying Republicans get their news almost exclusively from Fox News. Okay, 90% of Republicans get their news from Fox News, whereas when you look at the liberals, they have a much more diverse media.
All right, let's bring in Lara Trump, host.
Jimmy Kimmel blasted for claim on Antifa. I don't know what he's talking about. It's so funny. This is my favorite type of news making, as you guys know, is my pet peeve, which is first you blast the person and then you do additional coverage on how everyone is blasting this person. It's like, no, it's you. You're the one who's doing the blasting. So what do you mean everyone's really mad at Jimmy Kimmel for his Antifa statement? It's like, no, it's just you. And now you're trying to continue the conversation by claiming, oh, wow, everyone is really mad. Tom Emmer said that the No Kings protest next week was going to be a terrorist event, and Mike Johnson said it was a Hamas rally. Terrorist just means valid target to the United States government. It's scary stuff how comfortable they are throwing that term around. Yep.
Of My View with Lara Trump. Good to see you, Lara. I'll have you react to Alexis's reporting on what's happening in Rutgers University. What I find interesting is that this professor, writes this entire book about Antifa. He says, I'm not part of Antifa, but I just, I teach about it. And then you have somebody like Jimmy Kimmel who says, there is no Antifa. I want you to listen to this sound clip from Kimmel.
There's no Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa. This is no different than if they announced they rounded up a dozen Decepticons. We've captured the Chupacabra, everyone.
Okay, so what's happening here?
Well, there is Antifa. This White House classified them as a domestic terrorist organization, which they are.
This is, I said this the first day, bro. Like, because there is no, real organization that is like Antifa, with the exception of Rose City Antifa or whatever, right? It's just there is no actual defined organization that you are targeting. Anyone and everyone can be considered Antifa. And the administration has obviously made that very clear. Terrorism already is an intentionally vague definition, and it is utilized to take a process and their rights and their liberties and prosecute them and maybe even kill them, right? Without any sort of pushback. And for that reason, because it completely contradicts the First Amendment in the United States of America, it has never been applied domestically. There have been times where the First Amendment has been violated. Obviously, America is rabidly anti-communist. And there have been different ways in which America has violated any sort of discontent, any sort of dissent, or people that are engaging in any sort of dissent. Having said that, I don't think it's ever been, dude, calm down, dude. What the, please, no Fox News, dog. It hurts my brain, please, man. Antifa is also vague by definition, by design, in the same way that is a vague standard to apply, a vague term to apply to whoever you want to extrajudicially kill or apprehend. Okay? This is very dangerous. And the reason why it's very dangerous is because anything and everything can be considered anti-fascist in nature. And that's precisely the reason why Trump didn't just talk about all of the little radicals in Black Bloc or whatever, and instead immediately started talking about George Soros, Act Blue, and all of the payment processes that the Democrats use. And when expanded on the definition of what it means to be Antifa, which is once again a decentralized movement, therefore everyone from your grandparents who fought the Nazis in World War II down to you telling a racist that they're being racist, those are all acts of anti-fascism, no matter how little or no matter how organized they may be. Okay? This is precisely the reason why the administration can use this vague standard and apply it to everyone and anyone, including former Trump voters if they choose to, and claim that any kind of discontent is Antifa and must be stamped out.
They use violence to intimidate ICE officers, people they disagree with, push back on law enforcement, and try to stop anything, that's the way of life in this country as we know it, that they disagree with. And that's not the way things should be done. So Antifa absolutely exists. I don't know what Jimmy Kimmel's talking about there. This professor, I thought it was funny. He said, I don't subscribe to it. I just study it. I just teach it. I mean, I think it's a little outrageous. And I think he's probably upset, Aisha, that he's been exposed for what he is. And he's been exposed by a lot of these, individuals with Turning Point. I am very happy to see that we have people on campus now who are able to express themselves. For so long, it felt like that it was just an indoctrination factory. And that's exactly what a professor like this very clearly is doing to so much of our youth out there. But now you have these individuals in Turning Point, starting new chapters across this country, making sure that they're unafraid in the way.
I will say, this is definitely an incredibly worrisome development. But this is, I think, one aspect. This is, especially if the Democrats and everybody else, like even the normies who don't really give a fuck about politics, I suspect they will mobilize against this. And I also think that the courts will hold the First Amendment, because if they don't, it's over. There's two key things in the Constitution. I mean, there's many good things in the Constitution, but there's two key aspects of the Constitution that are supposed to limit the control of the government. And no, I'm not talking about the Second Amendment, okay? No, I'm not. Due process and free speech. Those are the two key safeguards of American theoretical democracy. If those go away, we'll be like, oh, Second Amendment, dude. Yeah, totally. Yeah, Second Amendment is totally protecting everybody, dude. You're right. If due process goes away and free speech goes away, it's over. It's over. And I still think that the courts will protect those two key components as it stands. And I think that there will be a lot of mass mobilization and mass discontent if the administration tries to go after these two things. Regardless of whether or not there is a compliant media ecosystem that actually pushes people's attention elsewhere, I think people will still get mad. They'll get mad enough. What about the Third Amendment? The Third Amendment, consistently the most powerful one, okay? Nobody thinks about it. Nobody talks about it. There was a brief moment when people talked about it during the BLM protests, but it's the most goated one, okay? W Third Amendment, the most powerful, has the most motion. W Third Amendment for stopping Kirsty Noem from using the restroom inside of government facilities. It's not even actually the Third Amendment that does that, but still, fuck it. Let's chalk it up. Let's chalk it up to the Third Amendment.
They're speaking. We are 1 month out from that horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk. And man, would he be happy to see the way that these students have made their voices loud and made sure that they are unafraid in everything that they say. So look, we'll see what Rutgers decides to do. Interesting, the guy fled the country, though. Maybe that tells us a lot about him.
Maybe it does. I want to switch gears to what's happening in Chicago and this fight that's escalating between your father-in-law and the leadership there, the Democrats there. And it's getting more and more intense every single day, this fight.
This is like when my haters were like, this he doesn't want to go to TwitchCon. I'll tell him if he goes. When I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go to TwitchCon because I don't want to like threaten the safety of others by being there. Okay. She's doing the same thing to this professor. He's like, yeah, that better not show his stupid ass face on America's soil. Okay. If my father-in-law has something to do with it, what a coward. He escaped the country. He better not come back here. If he comes back here, I'll show him what's what. It's like, okay, well, you kind of proved why he had to flee the country, which is an insane thing to begin with. Like, what? Why is everyone becoming a school shooter? What the fuck is going on here?
President Trump said that he, wanted to see leaders in Chicago be put in jail because of this conflict. And then the Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, said that he was going to do everything in his power to lead a resistance that is desperately needed to protect democracy and our human.
Who's Laura Trump's father-in-law? Laura Trump's father-in-law think? Who could it be? Who could Laura Trump's father-in-law be? Could be anybody, really.
How do you see this ending, Laura?
Well, I hope it ends with law and order being reestablished in a place like Chicago. Go talk to the residents of the south side of Chicago there, Aisha. I'm sure they'll tell you that they need help, that they don't feel safe in their own communities. If you go to Washington, D.C., where you saw President Trump bring in the National Guard, where you saw him federalize the police force, the people there and the citizens of Washington, D.C. are very grateful that he did that. You've seen murders drop out of the bottom. You've seen violent crime go down as well. And these people are finally able to live their lives again. You know, it's a shame that you have leaders.
It's just so funny that there is never any need from any media at all to just like actually talk to the citizens who are like, we don't like the troop presence, and also things were fine. Like, not only were things totally fine, but also on top of that, things have rapidly become not fine with the military being deployed to our streets. Why ask the average people that live there when you can just talk over them? Because your audience is not the people of DC or the people of Chicago. Your audience is the rural folk who don't actually see the military presence in their neighborhoods. It's a culture of domination, dominating the other, dominating the enemy. The enemies of the Republicans are the liberal elite, the establishment liberals, and the radical socialists and the communists. Because these people are objectively fearful of going into any of these big fucking cities anyway, they can just live with this complete false notion, this complete false reality that like these cities are constantly on fire. There's so many black and brown people and they're just like lighting shit on fire and they're robbing people blind and then they're killing them. And then the cops are like, oh, we can't do anything because woke. Like no one is getting arrested. Or when people do get arrested, then the woke judge says, oh, well, George Soros gave me Jewish money so I can release the black and brown people back into the streets. Like that's literally what 30 to 40% of this country believes. I'm not even exaggerating when I say this. Like unironically, 30 to 40% of this country believes what I just described to you. And there is a steady flow of misinformation that they consume that constantly reinforces this idiotic notion. 30 or 40% of the voters, you're right. Not though. I would say 30 to 40% of the country. No, I'll take it. I'll say 30 to 40% of the country believes it, not just the voters.
Whether it's Brandon Johnson, whether it's J.B. Pritzker, who I guess feel like they have to play politics, they have failed the citizens of Chicago. All you have to do is look at the statistics there. You can see that crime is up. And, you know, what President Trump wants to do is he wants to allow ICE agents to go in and do their job and enforce the law as it is written. If Brandon Johnson or J.B. Pritzker has a problem with that, they need to take it to the United States Congress. President Trump is trying to allow these ICE agents to do their job,
Isn't talking about the country people the same thing she's doing? Are you saying I'm doing the same thing she's doing? Do you think I'm lying when I say that a big chunk of the people that listen to this narrative, which is 90% of the Republicans, and trust this narrative, which is 90% of the Republicans, this is statistically bad. This is backed by stats. Because liberals, for the most part, have a diverse media diet that even includes Fox News. Okay? Republicans, on the other hand, there's Pew Center of research studies conducted on this stuff, on the media diet parsed through people's like political affiliations. And for the most part, Republicans or self-identifying Republicans get their news almost exclusively from Fox News. Okay, 90% of Republicans get their news from Fox News, whereas when you look at the liberals, they have a much more diverse media diet. This is why there's this narrative that like liberal media, like media is liberal and they dominate everyone's collective consciousness. Okay. Look, I agree with you, but I would like you to get out in the real world. I know that is a mad suggestion right now. No, I do get out in the real world quite a bit. I encounter people that have this kind of opinion. And not only that, but also statistics back the things that I'm saying. Here, I'll give you one great example of this. Okay? I'll give you one great example of this. People think crime is on the rise in this country, but when you actually look at the data across the board, crime is back to historic lows. Okay? And the trend lines for crime are going down, as has been the case for the past couple of decades. Right? But people still think crime is actually, when asked, people still think crime is absolutely out of control. When asked further why they think crime is out of control, they say crime is actually not high in my neighborhood, but it's higher elsewhere. That's what I'm talking about. One must ask the question how people arrive at this conclusion. This is a conclusion that I, am this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what I mean. People that don't live in big cities, or people that don't live in the big city that they're talking about. Like, because there are, right-wingers that live in New York, for example, that might not think New York crime is out of control, but they think or might not experience it themselves, but they see it on TV and they think it's happening elsewhere. But that is a constant in the American collective consciousness. Americans think crime is out of control. Okay? Americans think crime is out of control, just not in their neighborhood. It's just everywhere else. My dad has never been to LA or SF and constantly tells me how bad they are to me, a person who's lived in LA for 4 years and San Francisco for 2.5. Exactly. And ironically enough, if you actually do go out and talk to normies and coworkers and whatnot, you've probably heard this dynamic. People do it to me, for example. People do it to me all the time. People used to come in here and talk about like how crime in my backyard was completely out of control, that I was going to get shot any moment. Well, now they still tell me I'm going to get shot any moment, but that's usually just a death threat. But in the past, they used to say, like, dude, what are you talking about? Crime in Los Angeles is completely out of control. It's like, well, I live here. I went to the ICE protest. People were like, LA's on fire. LA is on fire. LA is completely on fire. It's like, no, I'm here. I'm here at the protests. Okay. I saw the fires directly. I stood next to them. Walked 10 minutes away from the protests where the 3 Waymos were burning and got ice cream. LA was not on fire back then, and it certainly isn't right now. Neither is Portland, and neither is Chicago. But these guys keep fucking saying that that's what's going on.
Violent criminals, gang members off the streets. And I can guarantee you the citizens of Chicago are going to be grateful when that is done. So I hope that that's the end we see happen. And I know that that's what this president wants.
Lara, I cannot let you go before I get your quick take on the president not getting the Nobel Peace Prize, getting snubbed on that award despite so many different nominations from all over the world, and the person who just won basically dedicating it to him. Quick thought on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, he deserves it more than anyone alive on this planet right now. There's no doubt. This will be his 8th conflict if this is successful in the Middle East, and probably something that people in their wildest dreams never thought in our lifetime we would see happen. No one deserves it more than President Trump, but we know these people who establish who wins the Nobel Peace Prize hate Donald Trump. They suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And in our hearts, he will be winning the Nobel Peace Prize. We know that for sure, and I hope he gets it in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Lara. Good to see you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News.